How's it going there? Oh my god, that hurt. No, we're not doing that again. I can't do that right now. How's it going there, everybody? My cup of tea here. It's back in another reaction video. Sorry about that. My back hurts. I went to the gym yesterday with some friends. It hurts to move, hurts to walk a little bit, but that's not important because today it's been a long time, or it's been a minute, a hot minute, but we're here to continue the Thomas and Friends or the Railway Series timeline. Yay, 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 yay. Yeah, so we have watched the entire Railway series, the first video on this playlist, and we watched the CGI timeline, which was the last video on this playlist. Now we're in between to watch the entire model series timeline of Thomas and Friends, every major event from season 1 through 12 in order, because I don't think I watched this. Let me just double check real quick. I didn't watch this. No, I have not watched it. We're good, okay. Yeah, I had to double check again. So this is gonna be 40 minutes long, so let me stop talking, grab some snacks, grab some drinks, because we're gonna be here for a while, and let's get active. Let's get active. Let's learn about our lore. I have been looking through the comments. I know you've been waiting for this video, for me to return back to the series. Here we are. Let's get it. No more talking. Just...
Alrighty.
I'm sorry, I forgot I had it in slow motion. I was doing something before. My fault. My apologies. I'm like, why does it sound weird? Alright, here we go. Let's start this correctly.
Alrighty, everyone. This is the big one.
Yes, it is.
We've seen the Railway series.
I have, yep.
We've seen the CGI
Yep.
timeline. Now it's time for the most complex timeline
Complex.
of them all.
Oh god, wait
The
a minute.
model series timeline of Thomas the Tank Engine.
Alright, let's get it.
12 seasons and 2 movies of lore to be placed in a linear sequence of events.
Wait, 12 seasons and 2 movies of lore? Oh. Alright, let's put on some captions real quick. Hopefully it's not too distracting.
There's a reason I put this one off till last. That reason being I knew it was going to be the most complex one. The Railway series timeline is also complex, yes, but it actually wasn't too hard to make. Wilbur Audrey laid out all the information just out for us in the Island of Sodor book, and I just took everything from that and the books and placed them in order. The CGI timeline was even easier, as they didn't really get too far into lore in those seasons, or really pay mind to nitty-gritty details. The model seasons, though, oh boy, it's lore galore, scattered and often inconsistent. It was a real
inconsistent
chore
lore
to put all this together, not going to lie. But I think I've figured it all out for the most part, and I'm pretty happy with the end result. So before we get started, let's go through the usual disclaimers. 1. This is a timeline that includes all of the model seasons, so that includes the later hit seasons. I am aware that there are unfortunate inconsistencies, mostly character stuff. The Skarloey in Season 10 is not the same Skarloey in Season 4, and I hate that just as much as you all do.
I'm tired.
But putting all that aside, the overall big picture continuity stays fairly consistent in all of these seasons.
Okay, that's
Things
good.
like the Skarloey Railway always goes to an incline quarry. Arlesdale End is always where Toby's shed is. Peter Sam consistently has his new funnel after his old one falls off. After the clay pits close, Bill and Ben are always seen working at
I don't remember Bill and Ben.
There's also continuity between the eras, like how Emily is consistently at Knapford Sheds until she moves to Tidmouth. Arthur is always on the coastal line, etc. The hit era is generally inconsistent most of the time in terms of geography and where everything is placed. So I don't take what that era of the show presents us so literally, unless it's a location that's placement is integral to a story or something. Like Great Waterton.
This is all new for me, basically.
Bear with me here. 2. Some of the stuff...
Let's pause real quick. So, how is this different? So, the model series is not the CGI series, but this is a TV show because it's season 1 through 12. So, like, I'm just confused on, like how... I'm just confused. Let's keep it going. I don't know how to describe it. I'm just confused a little bit.
That I've made myself. Some of this is headcanon and not hard fact. I've taken some of my own creative liberties here and rearranged the order of episodes to fit an overall narrative. Stuff like Percy in Season 2, talking about events that didn't happen until Season 3.
Percy, what the heck?
There's no hard evidence that
Time
every
traveler
episode
Percy
takes place on a specific date, unlike the Railway series. I think we're allowed some creative leeway here.
Go ahead with it.
A lot of this is also tailored to my Island of Sodor map, so also keep that in mind. Please take what I present here with a grain of salt.
3.
Thomas and the Magic Railroad ain't canon. No matter which way
It's
you work
not?
it, there is no way this godforsaken movie can work in the lore of the show. It just can't. The movie establishes
that
that
train.
magic is a thing in this universe. There are all these human
What the heck?
characters, and the engines can somehow drive themselves. And nothing in that movie is ever referenced again.
I think he made a reference to that in the CGI one. I must have blocked it out of my memory. I don't.
This would make Diesel 10 simply a big bully diesel that just appears out of nowhere in Colonel Engines, which I'm fine with. And Lady just a figment of Thomas's imagination. And you know what? If you're going to write a magical engine into your real-life based train show, that's how you do it. And again, I am okay with that.
Sorry,
And lastly, I'm again not going to mark
plane.
years on this, but I am going to give you rough estimates of decades.
Okay,
Okay, now that that's all out of the way, let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen,
Let's give him a like right
the
now, because
entire
let's give him a like right now.
Thomas
It's about
the
to be
Tank
crazy.
Engine and friends.
Put a lot of work into this video. I can already tell. That's good music. Good music choice. All right, let's get it. Before the beginning.
Just like the Railway series, our story begins with the Skarloey Railway. In the 19th century, a narrow gauge railway is built from the wharf at Balladwale to the slate mine at Ward Fell. The railway, called the Skarloey, was run by two engines called Skarloey and Reneus. The Skarloey Railway Company formed a second narrow gauge railway called the Mid-Sodor Railway, which was built running from Skarloey to Peel Godred. Together, these two railways created a link from the wharf through the mountains. The railway was more expansive than the Skarloey, and went west to a river harbor terminus at Valesbridge and scattered mines. Thus, the railway was run by several engines, which included Duke, Bertram, Smudger,
the homie
possibly
Duke,
Freddy, and whether you like to believe he was real or not, Proteus. A lot of people like to believe the engine that fell off the old iron bridge was Proteus, myself included. Whether Proteus was real, or the engine that fell itself, at some point before all the other engines arrived, this engine fell off the old iron bridge and drowned in the swamp below.
Oh, dang.
It and its crew never to be seen or heard from again.
That's why we don't talk about this?
Legend.
We don't talk about this?
A statue of Proteus was later built to honor the lost engine. The railway's second engine, Smudger, kept disobeying orders and derailing.
Smudger, what are you doing?
Eventually, the manager had had enough. He removed Smudger's wheels and had him turned into a generator behind the shed.
Dang.
The railway received its next two engines called Falcon and Stuart. On Falcon's first run up the mountain road, he derailed and nearly fell down the mountain.
Oh my god, relax.
But fortunately, Duke saved him.
Let's go, Duke.
Coal mines were dug in the foothills on the east of the Sodor Mountains, and a town formulated around the mining hub.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you know right now. Geography, like where these railways are at and where they connect to, I'm gonna forget all about it. I'm letting you know right now in advance. I'm trying my best.
Called Great Waterton. A standard gauge tramway was built from Great Waterton to the wharf at Balladwale. This tramway was the first standard gauge railway on the island, and was run by a fleet of tram engines. As this was the only standard gauge railway on the island at the time, the railway was simply called Sodor Tramways. At some point later, the Skarloey and Mid-Sodor Company decided to build a third railway, running east through Bluebell Valley and into Vickerstown, creating a complete rail link between it and Peel Godred. The narrow gauge tracks actually proved ideal to traverse the hilly terrain north of Croven's Gate. However, the railway didn't see the success they had hoped for, because soon after, the mainland built a bridge across the Channel and extended their standard gauge railway through Vickerstown to the holiday town of Norrumby. This put an end to the new narrow gauge extension, and the stretch of the line from Vickerstown to Bluebell Valley became disused. In the northwest of Sodor, Sodor Tramways built a second tramway called the Arlesdale Railway, running from the harbor at Arlesborough to Arlesdale End. This railway was run by a small fleet of tram engines, which were very similar to the ones that ran to Great Waterton. One of these engines was called Toby. We'll say around this time, a young Topham Hatt started learning how to drive in his steam lorry called Elizabeth. Sometime later in his young adulthood, Elizabeth was sold off, and then later left in a wooden shed, forgotten about. A mining network opened in the heart of Sodor near Ulstead, including a stone quarry, a lead mine, a coal mine, and the gold mine, which was shared with the Mid-Sodor Railway. A new single-track standard gauge railway was built to transport the goods to the original Knapford Harbor. A coastal track around the headlands was later built so the railway could reach Tidmouth. Another standard gauge railway is built in the south along Sodor's Peninsula, a short line from Wellsworth to the harbor at Brendam.
Crazy.
At long last, all the standard gauge railways on Sodor came together and decided to formulate one big railway, the North Western Railway, with Sir Topham Hatt as its controller. 2 engines from the mainland came to Sodor to help construct it. One was an older little tender engine called Edward, and later came a tank engine called Thomas. Together they all built the main line from Vickerstown to Knapford and connected all the railways in big towns. Tunnels were carved through the hilly terrain above Croven's Gate, a huge suspension bridge was erected across the River Hoo, a massive viaduct was built over the River Ray, and another tunnel was cut on the west side to connect Elsbridge and Tidmouth. The new mainline connection closed the remaining part of the narrow gauge line to Vickerstown, and the whole line fell into disuse. The Norrumby line, as it was built by the other railway, held independence from the Northwestern with its own controller. I like to think it was around this time of the Northwestern's construction that the events of You Can't Win occurred, as Thomas is present at Croven's Gate when Duke and Stewart arrive.
I understand the difference now between CGI and the model series. Okay. This is like, how do you describe this type of animation? It's like models, they're models, yeah, okay. I was just trying to say clay animation. That's something completely different. I was thinking about this the entire time, like, what's the difference between CGI and model? The actual models using for
occurred, as Thomas is present at Croven's Gate when Duke and Stewart arrive. A new double-track section of the Farquhar branch was constructed above the old one to meet the new terminus station at Knapford, and also create a loop line for the main line. Knapford opened a much larger harbor south of the new terminus station for the now much larger railway, and closed the original one. The original tracks to it became disused as well. The coal mines and the foothills dried up. With no more industry, the people of Great Waterton all left to move to the new, more populated parts of the island, where they could find work. The town was eventually abandoned and fell into disuse, as did the tracks of the branch line to it. But the southern section of the wharf to Croven's Gate would later be maintained for mainline use. The Northwestern acquired 3 more engines to help run the main line. Next to arrive was an engine called Henry to pull the express. He proved to be an unsuccessful steamer, so another express engine called Gordon was brought, and Henry was kept on smaller trains. A mixed traffic engine called James arrived sometime after. Thomas, meanwhile, was kept at Knapford as
I think James is the one that always like messes up sometimes from the last video we watched on this. I think James kept messing up, fumbling.
The station's pilot engine. I'll also say around these early times, the cement works opened near the coastal cliffs in Killabon, and a goods line was built to it. The works owned a railway traction engine called Fergus that worked the area, and continues to work there in the series' present day. The show implied that the cement works and Fergus have been around for a long time.
Okay.
Why would I use kayak?
Alright, ad break. Again, we're just setting up the pieces of railways that, introducing some iconic trains in here. Now, when it comes to like where they at, what the heck is happening here? When it comes to like the placement of the railways and like the geography, there's already, I don't know. I won't remember these towns, these railway names. I'm sorry, I'm not good at that. I'm trying to remember the characters and like what they do and like how important they are to the railway thing, the series. I heard my boy Duke's in it. Loving it. I'm loving it because Duke's an old one. Duke is very old and very helpful. All right, let's continue. Oh. The theme song, The Golden Years.
And now we start getting into the events of Season 1. The events of Seasons 1 through 4 are all a bit intertwined, so bear with me as I skip around a bit. Henry refused to work in the rain and shut himself up in a tunnel. After several attempts at trying to make him move, the Fat Controller gave it up and walled Henry up in it. However, when Gordon's safety valve burst and Edward was unable to pull the train alone, Henry was finally let out to rescue it. Thomas, meanwhile, grew bored of being a station pilot and longed to leave the yard. One day, a runaway James raced through. He had an awful crash, and Thomas sprung into action to rescue him.
There goes mess up number 1 for James. Like 4 more, I think.
With the breakdown train. The Fat Controller was so pleased with Thomas that he awarded him the branch line to Farquhar. Hey. Thomas finally left Knapford to run his branch line with his 2 coaches, Andy and Clarabelle. During his early days, he went fishing, left his guard behind, got stuck in the snow during his first winter on the line, and
the eyes.
The big engines were forced to
Why do I
shunt their
keep
own
doing
coaches with Thomas gone. Fed up with it, they went on strike until another engine came to do it for them. The Fat Controller purchased a saddle tank, which he called Percy, who arrived and became the station pilot. Henry continued to fall ill frequently, and the Fat Controller had his crew try out special Welsh coal for him. The new coal seemed to do the trick. That winter, though, while pulling the Flying Kipper, Henry...
I didn't know about that. So Henry was sick, so they had to get like some different types of coal for him to feel better. Okay, story. All right, interesting. I didn't even peep that.
Was diverted onto the wrong line and suffered a high-speed collision.
Ooh, my God, that's very high speed.
The crew to be repaired, and he came back in the spring with a new shape and no steaming problems whatsoever.
Hey, let's get it.
We're in
Upgrade.
the early 50s now. At some point this year, a landslide blocked the Hackenbeck Tunnel, and Mrs. Kindly waved a red dressing gown out her cottage window to stop Thomas and prevent a collision. The Arlesdale Railway started facing struggles as the roads took over their business. The tram engines were all eventually withdrawn and scrapped, with Toby being the last remaining in service. One day, the Fat Controller took his family on holiday to the north, and they all met Toby and his coach Henrietta. A few months after their visit, the services ended entirely, and the Arlesdale Railway announced its closure. Toby's last day was unusually busy. Back on the Northwestern, Thomas got into trouble with a policeman. He was not allowed to travel to the quarry on his branch line without covered wheels.
That's crazy.
Instead of giving Thomas side plates, the Fat Controller concluded the railway needed its own tram engine.
That's still wild to me. Like, hey, what are you doing, Thomas? You can't be running here with those types of wheels. Arrest this man or get this man plated, sir. It's a whole train. Can we even do that? We gonna find a way. They were about to do it.
Instead of giving Thomas side plates, the Fat Controller concluded the railway needed its own tram engine.
Sorry, boss. I keep forgetting that there's actually a conductor on the train of Thomas and the others. It's not just like they're moving by themselves like one of the movies have you believe, I think.
And he wrote to Toby's controller. Toby was purchased by the Northwestern Railway and went to work on Thomas's branch line. That Christmas, the Fat Controller held a Christmas party at Tidmouth Sheds for Mrs. Kindly, as a thank you for her act of bravery earlier that year. A China clay works opened on the Brenham Peninsula, and the industry at the harbor at Brenham began to boom. The clay works acquired 2 twin saddle tanks called Bill and Ben to transport clay to the docks, and Edward was assigned to services on the branch line to Brenham. An ironworks opened in Peel Godred, and the Northwestern Railway constructed a new branch line up the valley to it, crossing over the Mid-Sodor Railway north of Abbey. This complete through line up the valley would eventually spell doom for the Mid-Sodor. Edward would bring trucks from the scrapyard on his branch line up to the new ironworks. Edward came across a traction engine called Trevor in this scrapyard. He convinced the vicar of Wellsworth to save him, and now Trevor lives at the vicarage orchard.
Nice!
The gold mine started to dry up, and the Mid-Sodor's western section started to see less and less use. The gold mine closed, and the tracks to it from the Mid-Sodor and Northwestern became disused. Sadly, Bertram was left behind there at the mine when operations ended. The Skarloey, meanwhile, faced its own hardships as its only 2 engines started to grow old and worn out. Skarloey started failing, so Rheneas took over most of the workload. En route back home one stormy day, Rheneas's valve gear jammed. Determined to get his passengers home, he struggled on and limped the train back despite his cramps. The driver promised Rheneas that he would be mended when they found the time. I'll say around this time, the Fat Controller took on full ownership of the struggling Skarloey Railway and began looking into ways of refurbishing it, which would include acquiring new engines. The continued dwindling returns forced the Mid-Sodor Railway to finally close, and its remaining engines were auctioned off. Bertram had been left behind at the gold mine. Stewart and Falcon went off to work on the Skarloey Railway. We don't know what happened to Freddie, and Duke was tarped over and left in his shed at the old station. As time went on, the shed was eventually buried by heavy rain and landslides. Later,
we know what happened with Duke later on. We know what happened to the homie Duke. Duke is a legend.
Their drivers promised Rheneas and Skarloey that 2 new engines, which were Stewart and Falcon, would eventually arrive to help their struggling little railway. When Falcon and Stewart did finally arrive, they were renamed to Sir Handel and Peter Sam respectively. Rheneas was still in service at this point, and was sent away to the works sometime after their arrival off-screen. Skarloey was left in the open shed to rest while Sir Handel and Peter Sam ran the railway. I can only assume there's a bit of a time gap after this, so we'll cut back to the Northwestern Railway, and then come back to the little guys.
Okay.
The Fat Controller decided to reopen the old Knapford Harbor and promoted Percy from pilot duties to help with the reconstruction. Trevor helped too. Together, Thomas, Percy, and Trevor rebuilt the old harbor. The tracks of the original branch line to it were reopened as a goods line. During the reconstruction, Percy met Harold the helicopter and raced him to the harbor.
Oh, that's right,
When
the
the
race they
harbor
did,
reopened for service, Percy was relocated to work on Thomas's branch line with Thomas and Toby. With Percy away, another
three
bigger
Ts.
tank engine
Wait,
from the Great West with
what?
Thomas reopened for
Oh, it's
service.
first, never mind.
Percy
I'm
was
stupid.
relocated to work
I was
on
stupid. I
Thomas's
thought-
branch
I
line
thought it was three
with
Ts.
Thomas and Toby. With
That's
Percy
like
away,
Trevor.
another bigger tank engine from the Great Western Railway was brought to pilot at Knapford. His name was Montague, but was nicknamed
Montague.
Duck for his supposed waddle.
Ooh, that's
The
right.
Fat
Duck.
Controller
Yeah.
later trialed a diesel shunter from the other railway called Diesel. Diesel took a dislike to Duck
Yeah,
after
Diesel didn't
Duck
like
played
Duck
a
for some
trick on
reason.
him
Oh, that's
and got
why.
his revenge by spreading lies about him and getting him sent away to
Oh,
Wellsworth.
wow. That's some. I don't remember that. Wow. Alright, Duck. Not Duck. Diesel, that you took it too far now. You got tricked. I know, probably upset. Now you over here got this man sent somewhere else. That's crazy.
And got his revenge by spreading lies about him
Lies,
and getting
lies.
him sent away to Wellsworth. However, Diesel was found out and sent packing.
Let's
After
go.
Duck proved himself a hero
Get him outta
attempting
here.
to stop a runaway train, unsuccessfully, I
Oh,
might
dang.
add, he was brought back to the yard. The
Dang.
growing railway required more motive power, and the Fat Controller sent for an engine from Scotland to pull goods trains. He was astonished when two arrived. The engines were called Donald and Douglas, and the Fat Controller agreed to trial both and then make a decision later on which would stay. The engines all
okay.
held a deputation that winter to keep both engines on the island, and the Fat Controller allowed it. Donald and Douglas joined the railway and received nameplates.
Hey.
We've reached the end of the 50s now.
Oh,
and a
okay,
new
we're still in the
decade
50s.
begins.
Alright.
On Thomas's branch, Thomas foolishly attempted to drive himself, which resulted in him crashing into the station master's house at Tidmouth.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So they can drive by themselves, the engines, the tank engines, trains. Okay, good. Also, that's crazy. Like you just be chilling, eating food, and all of a sudden a whole train busts into your house. You're like, what the hell, man? Why?
He was sent away for repairs, and a diesel rail car called Daisy was brought in to fill in
Daisy.
for him. Daisy was snooty and selfish, but promised to be better, and when Thomas
Okay,
returned,
character
the
change.
Fat Controller kept her on. Boko, the big diesel, arrived on Sodor around the same time and joined Edward on his branch line. The famous preserved 100-mile-per-hour record-breaker engine City of Truro visited Sodor, much to Duck's honor. Gordon wasn't all impressed, and tried to run 100 miles an hour himself to no avail. The
Gordon,
hot
you
sun
get your old
warped the
self back
rails
behind
on
there.
Thomas's branch line. The Fat Controller closed the branch for a little while repairs were made, and the engines were sent to work elsewhere. Thomas worked in the yard, while Percy
He was
went
angry,
to work
I don't
with
wanna
Duck
work
at the
here.
ever-growing Brendam docks. Diesel returned for a short stint to help them,
Oh,
only to be
Diesel,
sent away again after causing more trouble.
Yeah, get him
While
out of
at the
here. I don't want to
docks,
see him
Duck
again.
discovered his
This
love for
villain.
the sea and longed to travel past the horizon.
Ooh,
The
okay,
Fat
Doc.
Controller decided to
Duck.
build a new station near the abandoned port at Arlesborough and had a new branch line constructed up to it, with plans to continue further to the fishing village at Harwick and create a full West Coast line. After Duck returned from Brendam, the Fat Controller asked him to run the line. Duck relocated to the branch line and helped finish its construction. Once they reached Callan, the line opened for service. Construction continued on north to Harwick off-screen. Sometime after Tidmouth Halt opened, Thomas tasked Percy in bringing a group of schoolchildren home. En route, it rained heavily and Percy got stuck in a flash flood.
Oh, Percy,
He
no.
braved through it though and made it home.
Oh, Percy's a champ.
After that, on one of his visits to Brendam Docks, Percy gloated about his bravery to Bill and Ben. He got a big
I would-
head
I would
and
too.
wound up unwittingly taking another plunge.
Okay, all right. You
A
tried your
massive
luck
storm
again.
struck Sodor
You
and
tried your
tore
luck
up the
again.
forest between Wellsworth and Crosby, much to Henry's dismay. He, Toby, Trevor, and Terrence all worked together to clean up the mess and plant new trees.
Oh, nice, cool.
Next up are the events of Off
Like
the
my foot
Rails,
fell
Down
asleep.
the Mine, and Paint Pots in Queens. Okay, hear me out here.
Hearing
The
you.
events of Paint Pots in Queens occur right after Down the Mine, as
Okay.
Gordon still has his winch on from rescuing Thomas in that. Duck and Donald are also present in this episode, which means this trilogy had to occur much later in the series. So let's
Okay.
compromise and say it occurs sometime in the middle during season 3.
Sure.
Gordon one day
Let's go with it.
refused to pull a
I'm
goods
gonna lie.
train and in an attempt to break the turntable to avoid pulling it, ran himself off it into a ditch. He got the express taken away from him.
Was that Gordon?
And one day refused to
Gordon.
pull a goods train. And in an attempt to break the turntable to avoid pulling it, ran
I
himself
ain't doing
off
that.
it
You better do
into
it,
a
Gordon.
ditch. He got
But
the
you in this
express
ditch
taken
now.
away from him and was demoted to goods work.
Yeah, good.
Thomas later fell into a mine while
there goes
collecting
Thomas.
trucks at the old lead mine on his branch line. The ground was too weak for cranes, so Gordon was brought up, and he made up for his previous incident by
Okay,
rescuing
Gordon.
Thomas.
Character development.
When the duo returned home, they were told of Her Majesty, the Queen, coming to visit the island.
This is important.
When the day came, the Fat Controller allowed Gordon to haul the royal train.
Ah.
Disney
Good job,
Pixar's
Gordon. Oh,
Elemental.
Elementals.
Now streaming on Disney
Hey. I
Elemental
want to know
is
about
home
these
to
trains,
air,
not
earth,
elementals.
fire.
I don't care about the nature and elements. Nah, train time.
We were roughly in the mid-60s now. Diesel started to become
60s.
more prominent on the island of Sodor.
Diesel?
A diesel shunter called Mavis was purchased by the Farquhar Quarry.
Is this the same diesel? Oh, that's the same diesel we're talking about. Nah, ain't no way.
Island of Sodor. A diesel shunter called Mavis was purchased by the Farquhar Quarry. Diesel also returned to Sodor for a brief time again, in which he gave Mavis bad advice and then told Gordon of steam engine's eventual fate. The famous preserved engine Flying Scotsman also
Get him
visited
out
Sodor,
of here.
who in this timeline had never met Gordon, as Gordon seemed to not know who he was when he saw him. Douglas took a midnight goods train to Vickerstown and found a little engine called Oliver and his brakeman
Oliver,
Toad
huh?
in the exchange yard there, hiding from the scrapyard. Douglas rescued them and brought them to the Northwestern Railway.
Hey, Douglas.
Oliver was saved by the Fat Controller, who restored him and Toad to their original liveries.
That controller
They
was a
were
good
put to
guy.
work on
I
the
keep
Little
forgetting how
Western
good he
River.
was.
A double-decker
trains
bus
out.
called Bulgy was brought on
Bulgy?
during the summer rush. He stupidly attempted to take a shortcut and got himself stuck under a bridge.
Boji.
The Fat Controller decommissioned
The heck,
Bulgy
man.
after this, and he was turned into a henhouse in the field beside the bridge. he
Dang,
stuck
not a
in.
hidden house.
Meanwhile, the
That's
Fat
crazy.
Controller trialed a diesel from the other railway called Derrick on the Brendan branch, but he broke down on his first job collecting trucks.
Oh, that's
from
not
the
a good
Playworks.
start. That's not a good look.
Derrick was sent
Derrick.
back soon afterwards. Around this time, Edward went to Croven's Gate for repairs, and Scarloey caught up with him. He
Oh,
told him how
Scarloey,
much
hey.
he missed Rheneas. Later, Sir Handel derailed, and Scarloey was brought out of the shed to take over the train.
Okay.
He broke down en route,
Dang.
but got the train home.
Oh, let's
And
go.
the crew was so pleased with him that they promised to send him away to be mended.
Hey,
After
let's go,
Scarloey left,
upgrade.
Rusty arrived to help out and spent ample time inspecting and repairing all the tracks of the railway. During his time exploring, Rusty came across the disused tracks to Bluebell Valley, and in springtime enjoyed traveling along them for fun to see the flowers there.
Okay.
Peter
little
Sam
nature-
had his
Oh
accident
my
at the
goodness.
slate quarry,
Jesus.
which permanently damaged his funnel.
That looked
Duncan
pain.
arrived soon after to help out while Peter Sam was out of commission. Another time gap occurred, so let's cut back to the events on the Northwestern.
Hey.
A circus visited Sodor, and
A circus.
James hauled the train. One of its elephants got loose and ran away and hid in Henry's tunnel. A little girl from London
Okay,
wrote
like
to the
you do.
Fat Controller asking if he could bring all his engines to the mainland so she and her friends could meet them. So he decided to bring his first 8 to London for a big display event.
Alright,
Engines
alright.
1 through 8 all went, and Oliver, Donald, Douglas, Bill, Ben, Mavis, and Boko stayed behind and took over the work. Harwick was finally reached by rail on the west coast. One of the seaside villages along the route holds an annual festival, and they invited Toby up to be their special attraction. Toby traveled up the line to it. However, the plans changed, and Toby was turned away when he arrived.
Why? What happened?
Scarloey returned home
Oh,
from the works.
okay, we'll
and
never
Peter
know.
Sam filled him in on what had happened while he was gone. Around this time, a rescue team set out to find the long-forgotten Duke. and
Let's
used
go.
Scarloey
Get
to
him
ferry
out
them
of
across
there.
the
That
railway.
shack. That
On
place
one of
he's
their
in.
searches, one of the rescuers fell through the ground onto Duke in his buried shed. Duke was found, dug out, and brought to the Scarloey Railway.
Go, Duke.
Note how
Let's
Peter
go,
Sam
Duke. Help
still
him
had
out.
his old funnel when Duke arrived. That winter, the rough winds took their toll on Peter Sam's funnel. Note how Duke was on the Scarloey Railway at this point. Peter Sam's funnel was
Okay,
knocked
wait,
off
hold
by.
on.
Note how Duke was on the
Yep, Duke is on it. Yeah, this is Duke, right? I think that's Duke right there.
Scarloey Railway at this point.
Okay.
Peter Sam's funnel was knocked off by an icicle, and he got a brand new boxy one that
Hey.
proved successful. He has maintained it ever since.
Nice.
That same winter, during a blistery night, Thomas told the other engines Duke's story. Rheneas finally returned home from being
Let's know
mended
about
to
Duke's
a
story.
big celebration. The Norrenby branch was in search of an engine to run its line. Rusty ventured off along the old disused tracks to the exchange yards in Vickerstown, in hopes of finding a steam engine there the same way Douglas had found Oliver. He stumbled across Stepney there, alone and abandoned, and the two escaped. Stepney was purchased by the railway and now runs the Little Lion. He enjoys his life, but grew tired of his short runs and wished for a long run. He got his wish when the Fat Controller brought Stepney to the west of Sodor to visit. During his visit, he made Thomas jealous, raced Caroline, and double-headed the express with Duck when a visiting other railway diesel failed. Stepney left the next day with a huge send-off. And this thus ends all the major events of the first 4 seasons.
Oh, that's just still the first 4 seasons? Oh, wow. A lot has happened in that first 4 seasons. Okay, so Duck got found in season 4, it looks like. Saw Jamie's first accident. Big Bully Diesel was here. The Queen showed up also. Her Majesty showed up. That was 50s and 60s, it looks like, the time period, the timeline. So now we're moving on to season, 5 and 8, probably? Yeah, had to count real quick on my fingers. Oh, I'm sorry, 5, 6, 7. I should have...
After the events of...
Wait, what was it? Middle years, okay. What was it, 70s and 80s?
After the events of season 4 complete, I like to think the series starts to enter the late 60s/early 70s.
Okay, late 60s,
season 5
70s.
begins where an insane amount of world building occurs and old things rediscovered.
Okay.
Brendam Docks acquired a new crane called Cranky, who later got knocked over when a storm struck the island.
Oh, yeah.
He was soon raised though, and then knocked over again.
Dang.
And raised again. A new branch line was constructed to Kirk Ronan from Kelsthorpe. Kirk Ronan gained a big new canopy terminus station. On the line's opening day, Gordon's brakes failed and he smashed right through the station wall, permanently leaving his mark there. Henry took a midnight goods train to Peel Godred, where he and his crew happened upon Old Bailey, the original station master of the Mid-Sodor station at the crossover. The station is restored by the island's Preservation Society, with Old Bailey as its keeper. Sometime later, the lake adjacent from the station was drained, and the old Mid-Sodor tracks were pulled up. The track bed was paved over to create a new road link, albeit not very well. Off-screen at some point, the Northwestern took charge of the Normandy line from its previous manager, and the Fat Controller acquired ownership of Stepney. He allowed Stepney to visit the big railway again for a little while to help Toby and Mavis at Farquhar Quarry. On his way back to the east, he made a wrong turn and ended up at the Ironworks. The Ironworks diesel's Ari and Bert came across him and saw to it that Stepney finally received the scrapping he had cheated before.
Oh, no!
Luckily, Stepney was saved just in the nick of time by the Fat Controller.
Why are diesels the worst ones, the evil ones here? They need to be punished. All of these, well, not all of these. Some diesels are good. But why are these diesel trains so evil?
And he returned back home to Normandy safely. The China Clay Works, meanwhile, suffered a catastrophic avalanche that destroyed the entire workings.
Dang.
Bill and Ben acted quickly and managed to save everyone on the site before the disaster struck. The Clayworks unfortunately closed after this. Following the closure, Bill and Ben were relocated to Farquhar Quarry and worked there with Mavis for the remainder of the series. I placed this event a bit later because we see Mavis at Farquhar in Stepney Gets Lost, and Bill and Ben aren't present there yet, although they could have just been off-screen. Oliver was temporarily reassigned to pull the mail train for a while. On one of his trips coming down from Callan, he was accidentally sent down the abandoned tracks of the old Arlesdale Railway and crashed into Toby's old shed at Arlesdale End. The Fat Controller set out in Harold the helicopter to find Oliver. When they did, he became fascinated with the old railway and decided to reopen it for visitors. Off-screen, the Fat Controller acquired the running rights, and Toby was relocated to his old stomping grounds to help with the line's reconstruction. Heavy rain caused the great dam on the line to collapse, taking out one of the bridges and nearly Toby with it. By the 1 month though, the dam was mended and Toby's line was open for service, with its new west terminus at Callan on the Little Western. Sometime later, Toby and the Hat family adventured along the abandoned mining network at the tail end of Thomas's branch, and came across the ruins of Ulfstead Castle and the gold mine. Both began to be refurbished for tourism. During the mine's restoration, Bertram was uncovered. When the mine and castle were reopened as tourist attractions, Bertram was put back into service, giving rides to visitors around the mine site. A connection between Arlesdale End and Ulfstead Castle was built, creating a loop, and making Arlesdale End a through station. The castle became a regular stop on Toby's route. Thomas and Percy came across an old clerestory? How do you say it again? Thomas and Percy came across an old clerestory coach at the Iron
I
Works.
can't pronounce it.
After
Even
a
the
fire
subtitles can't
broke out
pronounce
at the
it.
workman's hut at Tidmouth Halt, the coach was restored and refitted out as housing quarters. She was permanently parked at Halt. However, when Mrs. Kindly's daughter got married later, Thomas and Percy brought old Slow Coach along to it as a part of a good luck package.
Hey.
The Fat Controller decided to reopen one of the closed quarries on the Mid-Sodor
That
Railway,
big rock on top
Boulder
of the mountain?
Quarry.
Boulder
The
Quarry?
Skarloey
Okay,
engines
it
were
is
allowed up the
Boulder.
old tracks to it. However, the new drillings caused a boulder to become
I
dislodged from...
knew that boulder was gonna fall. I'm like, that looks so fallable. That boulder looks like it's about to fall. That does not look a good spot for the boulder to be at. I'm like, it's not gonna go
the
well.
old tracks to it. However, the
Y'all
new
wanna drill
drillings
it?
caused
That's
a
crazy.
boulder to become dislodged from its perch. The boulder terrorized the railway
Oh
and
my.
caused significant damage.
Oh goodness.
After the boulder disaster, the Fat Controller decided it was an act of God, telling them to leave that part of the
Act of
island
God.
alone
Hey,
and
yo,
cease operations
chill.
at the quarry
Away from that
forever.
quarry forever.
The old
Yep,
Mid-Sodor
away from
tracks
that.
were again left abandoned.
We don't
for
touch
now.
Sodor ever again.
Around this time, Sir
Never mind.
Handel got into trouble for something and was sent away to work at the
Okay.
slate mine indefinitely.
Never
I
know.
assume it was around this time he got sent away because Sir Handel is absent from the series at this point until season 10.
I'm
Hey.
banishing you to the Sodor realm. No!
Not the Shando realm. Oh wow. I don't think that happened in this show. That's some effects right there. Yeah, so Boulder, whatever that place was called. Yeah, they're not touching that again. That looked terrifying. What else has happened so far? I forgot that guy. It started with a B, who was like in this abandoned place for a while. He's back in action. He has like a happy smile. It's good for him. Wait, that's already over? Oh wow, that was fast. Okay. Diesel trains are evil. Some of them are, and this guy got banished to the Shadow Realm. So here we go.
Much better.
Alright.
And
This
thus
train got
ends
who
the
got
event
who got sent to the Shadow Realm?
at this point until
Sir
season
Handel.
10. Sent away
Right.
because Sir Handel is
Yeah,
Shadow
sorry,
realm.
okay.
No! Much better.
and thus ends the events.
Does that
of
boulder have
season
a
5.
face?
Probably the most packed season of them all. What a season. A new diesel shumper
Okay,
called
alright.
Salty was purchased from the other
Salty,
railway and traveled to
season
Sodor
6.
over the bridge from the mainland. He worked at Farquhar Quarry for a short while with Mavis, Bill, and
Farquhar
Ben.
Quarry.
He was later relocated permanently to Brendam Docks, where he still works in present day. The railway also gained a new crane engine called Harvey, who arrived to the island via ship. When Thomas broke down en route to Brendam Docks, his crew came across an old steam lorry in a nearby shed. The lorry was Elizabeth, the Fat
Oh,
Controller's first vehicle.
Elizabeth, that's right.
She helped
Yeah.
Thomas out, and the Fat Controller is so pleased with her discovery that he paid Jem Cole to restore her to her former beauty.
Did you forget about her? That's crazy, Fat Controller. That's crazy. That your first vehicle ever. Forgot about Elizabeth? That's wild.
Elizabeth returned to work and worked
Did Elizabeth do
mostly on the
something
roads near the
bad in
Skarloey
the past? I
Railway.
don't remember.
Ned the steam shovel caused an old quarry bridge on the Peel Godred line to become unstable, and
Okay.
it collapsed.
Oh, no.
Jack the front loader managed to hold it up in enough time for Thomas to clear
Oh,
it
good.
safely,
Thomas
but
would've-
damaged his arms in the process. Gordon set a new personal speed record, which
Okay.
we will come back to later.
Must
Edward
be important,
temporarily
that
left
speed
his
record.
duties on his branch line to go help Stepney with the heavy passenger traffic to Normanby. The
Stepney.
Northwestern acquired several new steam engines that the Fat Controller saved from the other railway. The engines were Emily, Arthur, and Murdoch.
I remember
and they
Emily
were all
kind of.
stationed at Knapford Sheds. The Duke and Duchess of Boxford paid their first visit to the island of Sodor and arrived via their private engine called Spencer. For the first time
Spencer.
ever, Gordon was shown up by another engine.
Yeah.
Lord Callan
Spencer
refurbished his
fast.
castle estate for tourism, and the castle opened as a new station on the Little Western. Duck and Oliver started running their services up to it. When the summer passenger traffic started to pick up, the Fat Controller decided to give bulge to it. When the summer passenger traffic started to pick
Who is this? Is this Gordon? Is it the Luigi Deathster? What's going on? That's not Thomas. Who is this? I think that's Gordon. I could be wrong, but why are you giving him the meanest look ever? This trainer over here, like, how dare you? You think you faster than me, huh, buddy? No, that's no way. No. Who is that?
up, the Fat Controller
I wanna know right now.
and the castle opened as a new station on the Little Western. Duck and Oliver started running their
It's not Duck
services
and
up
Oliver,
to it.
okay.
When the summer passenger traffic started
Who
to
is
pick
that?
up,
Who
the
is that
Fat
mean mugging
Controller
train?
decided to give Bulgy a second chance
Bulgy?
and brought him back to the roads.
Oh, yeah, the
After
bus
an
like I turned into a
incident with
hen
some
house.
chickens, Bulgy was retired from passenger work for the final time.
Good Goodness gracious, Boji, we keep giving you chances, and you keep turning into a hen bus, basically. No, Boji, no.
And converted into a mobile vegetable stand. From passenger work for the final time, and converted into a mobile vegetable stand.
Oh no, you
And
went
he
from
quite
hen
enjoyed
to...
it.
Oh wait, never mind,
Goods
we're good.
traffic on the line to
we're good,
Harwick
we're good.
began to pick up and demanded its own engine to run it frequently. The Fat Controller trialed Thomas, much to Thomas's disdain. After Thomas had an accident, Arthur stepped in and then asked if he could work there. The Fat Controller agreed, and Arthur permanently relocated to Harwick to run the line. The Fat Controller's interest in the old Mid-Sodor tracks never left him, and he eventually had part of the line reopened as a new branch line on the Skarloey Railway. A grand opening celebration was held at one of the new stations, Rumblin' Bridge. The branch gained another new station called Elephant Park, which opened later. The Fat Controller brought Diesel back again.
Oh my
for,
goodness!
What is this? The
Leave him
57th
alone!
Time now
Get him
to help
out of
Fergus
here!
out at the cement works. Diesel tricked Fergus into leaving the area for the ironworks, but all was put right after Diesel was found out.
Fat Controller, I don't know if I was about to say that. Fat Controller, stop bringing in Diesel. You have other Diesel trains you can be bringing in. Stop bringing in Diesel. Clearly, he's a villain that will never change his ways. He will never change. Get Diesel out of here permanently. Stop bringing him back.
In the area for the ironworks, but all was put right after Diesel was found out. Shockingly, Diesel wasn't sent home this time and stayed on Sodor. He went to the ironworks for a little while, and then to Farquhar Quarry later to work with Mavis. A giant storm struck Sodor this year. There are several episodes this season that revolve around a giant storm, and I like to think that they all happened at the same time. Each episode sees how the storm affected each of these different places on the island. Okay, so right before this storm, Salty was sent to collect Fergus from the ironworks and bring him back home to the cement works. The storm occurred en route and put the lighthouse out of action. Salty and Fergus came to its rescue and saved a ship from running aground. An old windmill on Toby's line was struck by lightning during the storm. Toby helped with the reconstruction, and the new windmill was named in his honor. The storm flooded the roads, and in an attempt to find a shortcut around it, Bertie got stuck in the mud and had to be rescued by Edward. On the Skarloey Railway, the storm damaged the old trestle bridge, and Skarloey, unaware, nearly fell off it. An old coach was also swept onto the line, which was then salvaged and converted into a tea shop on wheels, served by the refreshment lady.
Oh, that's nice.
Man, a lot more happened in
storm
season 7 than I remembered.
A lot of damage to this place. Oh, that was season 7, okay. Now we're here with season 8, a new era. That storm did a lot of damage. Diesel needs, I don't know how Diesel's still here, like he didn't turn to scrap or whatever. He must be a really good train, but just has a very bad personality. Elizabeth, they got some steam trains. Gordon, the fastest train, and then what was it, Spencer showed him up, like, hey, you're not that guy, pal. Oh, the boulder that fell down, and they was like, hey, y'all, no, God said don't build here, don't try to restore this place, never again, this railway. Some other stuff happened, I can't remember too much, but yeah, alright. Keep it moving. New era.
Kelsthorpe Road was rebuilt into a bigger
80s
station
and 90s
with
now?
a bay platform for the new branch line to Kirk Ronan. During the reconstruction, Thomas prevented a runaway train from crashing into it. The ground is prepped for an airport in the open space above Kelsthorpe. Construction began, but was delayed when another big storm struck
These
Sodor.
storms are
this
evil.
Same storm destroyed the suspension bridge across the River Hoo.
Oh no.
It was quickly rebuilt and mainline services resumed. The original Tidmouth sheds, now showing its age, was demolished, and while the new sheds were being constructed, the engines temporarily relocated. Thomas stayed at Knapford Sheds with Emily. The new Tidmouth sheds reopened, complete with an extra berth for Emily. Emily relocated from Knapford Sheds permanently to Tidmouth. The ever-expanding Skarloey Railway became too much for the Fat Controller, and he hired a new controller to look after it. Mr. Peregrine Percival himself, or as he's commonly known, the Thin Controller. A bunch of new engines
the Thin
that
Controller,
basically once and hardly ever again arrived too, including Molly, Dennis, Neville, and a double-ended Farley called Mighty Mac on the Skarloey Railway. The bridge for the Peel Dogwood across the main line fell into disrepair. While it was in the process of being restructured, Neville missed the warning signs and nearly ran right off it.
Neville, you were staring at the warning signs. Keep it going.
A statue of the main engines was presented to the Northwestern Railway that winter, which went up on display at Abbey Station. Wyatt Abbey of all places, and not like Knapford? I have no idea. After his extended stay serving the slate quarry in isolation, Sir Handel finally returned home to normal service on the Skarloey Railway. A much changed engine with a better attitude.
Came back from the Shadow Realm. All right, cool.
Gordon
We can do this with Diesel, change his attitude, that'd be great.
tried to beat his speed record again, and almost did, but he gave it up to help Henry. He did eventually beat the record off screen, and the Fat Controller presented him a special rake of coaches just for it. Toby's shed at Arlesdale End was rebuilt with a new roof, and the wood from the old roof was repurposed for a birdhouse out front. I'm not gonna lie, that's kinda cute. I like that. This year, Freddy was inexplicably found somewhere off screen.
I forgot about Freddy.
And brought to the Skarloey Railway.
Alright, Freddy, sure, we'll have him back, I
with
guess.
Sir Handel, and met Skarloey and Rheneas for the first time.
Rheneas.
Anyone got any ideas of where Freddy might have been this whole time?
Nope.
Maybe a private collector purchased him when the Mid-Sodor engines were auctioned off, and then donated him to the Skarloey later.
Let's go with that one.
The Northwestern
that's the
gained
lore
a new
now.
breakdown crane called Rocky, and also Rosie exists. And also some more
Also-
steam engines
also Rosie
inexplicably
exists.
arrived. Why not? Just pile them on.
While we zooming in, should I be concerned? Is the face like, does this train do something? I'm scared. Is that Billy? Oh, why the music get sinister? I'm all right. Okay. Should I be concerned? Like, does this train?
Next winter, a snow.
No. What was that? That was so fast. Here's your Billy video, Jade. All right, no Billy for you anymore, Jaden. I don't know who you are, Jaden, but there you go.
The next winter, a snow slide blocked the Skarloey Railway, and a snub-nosed lorry called Madge transported Duncan via road to the transfer yards from the sheds south of Skarloey. One fateful day, Duncan sent Thomas on a fool's errand with wrong directions to the wharf to get
Why,
him
Duncan?
lost. En route, Thomas.
Wasn't Duncan like one of those diesel trains too? I'm telling you, these diesel trains are evil. They're really evil. I swear they're evil.
Stumbled across the old tracks to Great Waterton. The Fat Controller, thrilled by its rediscovery, saw to it that the town was restored to former glory.
Okay.
Work began with Thomas relocated to Great Waterton to lead the work. A new engine called Stanley arrived to take over Thomas's duties on his branch line, and then later stayed on the railway after the town was reopened. On Sodor Day that year, a grand reopening celebration was held at Great Waterton. I'm very reluctant to continue the timeline after this point because of how terrible Season 12 is, and because The Great Discovery had such a nice ending. But Season 12 is still models, and it references some past episodes. So,
what the heck is that?
It's a part of this, sadly.
These aren't models
Peter
anymore.
Sam found the old statue of Proteus in the brush. The statue was polished up and put on display.
Whoa. The animation has changed drastically. Like, they're moving now, these models. I wasn't ready for this. I'm used to seeing models that mean like still, the humans. And they're not really moving, they're just there. They moving with they're jumping for joy. Like, yeah, Season 12, woo, it's lit. Is this Season 12? I don't even know.
The showgrounds
I think
to
it is.
commemorate the legend. With Great Waterton's reopening, the Fat Controller had its old tramway tracks to it restored for service. Coincidentally, around the same time, Toby uncovered an old sign for the long-defunct Sodor tramways.
Okay.
The Fat Controller brought a new tram engine called Flora to run the tramway to the town.
Flora!
A big opening celebration, complete with an engine parade, was held at Great Waterton.
At the end?
And, that's it.
All right.
In terms of major significance
events, we did it, guys.
That's where the model era of Thomas ends. Not the biggest or the grandest end, but holy moly, what a ride that was.
That was a lot he had to cover.
When it comes to timelines,
condense.
The one I assume many others default to will always be the Railway Series one.
Yeah, the book.
As that came from the man himself, Wilbert Audrey.
That was a nice video, the first one I watched.
Is a close second for me. It's a totally different history, sure, but it's just as rich in my opinion. This show never stopped world building, even in its later, lesser years. And even at the very end, added onto its already
That is true. They're
gigantic
always going to new
world.
places, going to old places,
CGI
rebuilding them
Thomas
back
has
up.
its perks, absolutely, but it'll never hold a torch to the all-model sets with real, physical, actual models in front of the camera.
Real models.
Model
Yeah,
Thomas
yeah,
was
yeah.
my and many others' childhoods, and created this fandom that we love and know today.
It was this one.
Fandom's
Okay.
combined efforts will ensure that Model
Fandom.
Thomas
Go
will
crazy.
continue to make up the childhoods of several other kids. So in case any of you here missed the update video,
the map
I have
update.
provided a link to the high-res JPEG of the Sodor map I have used in this video. The link to that is in the description below. Feel free
Y'all
to
go get
do
some
what you
pictures,
want
get
with
some
it.
links. Yeah,
That's all
cool.
for me, guys. This was a big one, and I hope you all found this interesting.
This was very
I'll
interesting.
see you
from,
all in the next one, folks.
someone who didn't really grow up with-
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. For someone who didn't really grow up with Thomas the Tank Engine, this was very interesting. Seeing here and go through. Like, again, I don't know, like most of the train railways and like the cities that they mentioned in this video, and some of the trains as well, but this was still fun to watch. Got to hear some funny, some crazy, some insane moments. This storm was terrorizing places over here. It's terrorizing the area, and we did it. We finally watched all the, I guess, timeline series, unless there's something I'm missing in his on his channel. I know he has like a video like where he like has like a lot of models I think he's gonna go through. That's like an hour long, so I don't know if I'm gonna watch that, but this was fun. We're gonna have to check out some more stuff too. I know he has videos that's not on Thomas the Tank Engine as well on his channel, but we'll see what happens. Looks like James didn't mess up that much compared to the CGI version. Because I remember James messing up a lot. Thomas got in some pickles. Diesel was a villain, the main villain of the show. People don't like season 12. They don't talk about season 12. Okay, if that was season 12, what I was looking at towards the end, I'm like, oh, what a huge change. Oh, we only had the fat conductor. Like there wasn't like his son, if he had a son, like in the original, like in the book series or in the CGI, I think. It was just the fat conductor from season 1 through 12. I was like, oh, is this gonna be the fat conductor for all the seasons? Alright, say less. We're gonna see some trains come back that was not been used for a while, for like years. It was just a really good video, really good, fun, wholesome video. Yeah. Round of applause. Round of applause to, let me move out the way so you can see the channel name. Round of applause to The Unlucky Tug. The Unlucky Tug, a lot of work into this, a lot of work he put into it. Love it. I love it. He also uploaded the full maps too using this video, so hey, you guys can check that out if you want to. That's pretty cool. Did it for free. But we're gonna get out of here. This was like a 40. How long did I record? Almost an hour long recording. We're gonna get out of here. Hopefully I can upload this today, even though it's like what 10:15. It's kind of pushed it. Might be tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But hope you enjoyed my reaction, and thank you for watching. My cup of tea is out of here. This is y'all. Oh, why did I do that? I just realized my back hurts. I shouldn't have did that, but hey, I had to do it. I gotta do it. My back. Ooh, this is fun. Again, Diesel, I want him gone forever. Unless he changes up his attitude, which he will never do.